There is a quiet pattern that repeats itself in gyms every January, in libraries every exam season, and in countless notebooks filled with ambitious plans. The excitement is real. The commitment feels genuine. For a few days, maybe even a few weeks, everything changes. Then life becomes ordinary again, and somehow the same person who couldn't stop talking about their new goal now struggles to spend even 10 minutes on it. It's tempting to call this laziness or weak discipline. But if that were true, motivation would disappear equally from everything we do. It doesn't. People who forget to study can still spend hours watching documentaries about subjects they love. Someone who skips workouts never forgets to check their favorite football team's score. The problem isn't that motivation fades. It's that motivation was never designed to carry a project very far in the first place. We tend to treat motivation as fuel when it's much closer to a spark. A spark is excellent for starting a fire, but completely useless if you expect it to keep the fire burning all night. Somewhere along the way, modern culture quietly convinced us that successful people wake up every morning overflowing with enthusiasm. Social media reinforces it. Every achievement is presented alongside dramatic music, energetic speeches, and perfectly timed sunrise routines. What rarely appears is Tuesday afternoon, when nothing feels exciting and the work still has to be done. That's where most goals are actually won or lost. Researchers studying long-term achievement have repeatedly found something interesting. People who consistently reach demanding goals aren't necessarily more motivated. Instead, they become less dependent on feeling motivated before they act. Their routines gradually separate action from emotion. Think about brushing your teeth. Almost nobody waits to feel inspired before doing it. You don't negotiate with yourself or watch motivational videos about dental hygiene. You simply do it because the decision was made long ago. That might sound ordinary, but it reveals something profound. Behaviors become remarkably stable once they stop asking your emotions for permission. The same transformation happens in every skill worth mastering. A musician doesn't practice because today's mood happens to be perfect. A writer doesn't produce hundreds of pages by hoping inspiration arrives every morning. Professionals across almost every field eventually reach the same uncomfortable realization. If your work only happens on good days, your progress will always be held hostage by your feelings. This creates an invisible trap for beginners. Every time they feel highly motivated, they assume they've finally changed. Every time motivation disappears, they assume they've failed. In reality, neither moment says much about who they are. One reflects temporary emotion, the other reflects the absence of it. Neither predicts whether they'll succeed over the next 5 years. Consider the difference between planning a vacation and building a house. Planning a vacation is exciting because most of the reward exists in anticipation. Building a house is different. The excitement fades long before the walls are finished. If construction depended entirely on emotional excitement, almost no houses would ever be completed. Long-term goals resemble construction projects far more than vacations. When progress becomes visible only after many ordinary days that individually don't feel remarkable at all. There's another reason motivation disappoints us. We often expect it to solve problems it was never meant to solve. Feeling motivated doesn't eliminate distractions. It doesn't create extra hours in the day. It doesn't magically simplify difficult work. Sometimes motivation actually creates unrealistic expectations. We begin with grand ambitions, overestimate what we can accomplish in a week, exhaust ourselves trying to match our temporary excitement, then mistake exhaustion for evidence that the goal wasn't meant for us. Ironically, the people who appear endlessly motivated often look that way because they reduce the number of decisions requiring motivation in the first place. Their environment quietly carries much of the burden. The running shoes stay by the door. The notebook remains open on the desk. The phone stays in another room. Instead of constantly asking themselves whether they feel like working, They make working the easiest available option. This isn't less ambitious, it's more realistic. Human behavior has always been shaped by the environments we create around ourselves. Motivation still matters. It introduces us to new possibilities. It gives us enough energy to begin. Without it, many meaningful journeys would never start. But asking motivation to finish what only consistency can complete is like expecting the opening chapter of a novel to somehow write the remaining 300 pages. Eventually, every worthwhile pursuit reaches the same crossroads. One path waits for another wave of inspiration. The other quietly continues without it. The difference between those two paths rarely feels dramatic on any particular day. But months later, one person has a collection of abandoned beginnings, while the other has something much rarer, proof that ordinary actions, repeated long enough, eventually become extraordinary results.